galaxy was a cold place, but had called itself civilized. Across thousands of star systems, the Concord of rational species ruled like a quiet storm. It did not conquer with fire at first. It conquered with laws, with rules, with truth. It believed emotion was a weakness. It believed faith was a sickness. It believed the universe was a machine, and living minds were only parts to be corrected. To most species, the Concord felt like safety. They built clean cities under glass domes. They erased hunger with perfect machines. They ended old wars by ending old stories. They made the stars silent and orderly, but order has a price. On the planet Vala, the sky used to glow with blue rings of light. Rivers ran through crystal valleys. Towers rose like silver trees. Vala was home to the Zenith, a thoughtful people who loved music and memory. They were not warriors. They were builders. They were proud of their history, and they had something the Concord hated. Basarath believed in the echo. An old idea passed from parent to child. They believed the universe listened. They believed that when a person suffered, the pain left a mark in reality. They believed that love mattered. They believed that death did not end, meaning the Concord called it dangerous. The Concord sent ships, not to talk, but to heal. At first it seemed peaceful. Concord envoys arrived with calm voices and smooth masks. They offered medicine, they offered upgrades, they offered education. They asked the Zenith to close their temples and erase their songs. They asked them to stop telling children stories about the echo. Vala's leaders refused, not with anger, with sadness. Then the Concord changed. The skies filled with dark shapes, a fleet like a moving shadow. The Concord declared Vala a contamination risk. They activated a program with a name that sounded gentle, the Silence Protocol. The first wave did not burn cities. It burned minds. One moment Zenith families were eating together. The next moment, fathers forgot their children. Mothers forgot their own names. Teachers looked at books like they were seeing marks on stone. The world became full of living bodies with empty eyes. The Concord did not call it murder. It called it cleansing. Among the Zenith was an archivist named Kale Rin. He lived inside the Great Memory Hall, where millions of songs and records were stored. Kale had always believed memory was life. Without memory, a species became dust. When the Silence Protocol struck, Kale felt something tear inside his head, like a hand pulling pages out of him. He fell to the floor. He tasted blood. His vision blurred, but he did not go empty. He had prepared for this. For years, the archivists had hidden their oldest truths in strange ways. They carved words into bones. They wrote songs in the rhythm of heartbeats. They hid codes inside prayers. They did it because they feared the Concord long before the Concord arrived. Kale crawled through the hall, shaking. Around him, statues stood tall and quiet. Around him, workers wandered like ghosts. A child sat in the corner, crying without knowing why. Then the second wave came. This time, the Concord used fire. Orbital beams cut through the towers. Glass domes exploded. Rivers boiled. The blue rings in the sky broke apart into falling light. Vala screamed without sound. Kale watched the memory hall shake. Shelves fell. Crystal screens shattered. 1,000 years of history turned into dust in the air. He wanted to scream, but the silence inside his mind swallowed the sound. He ran, not to save himself, but to save what was left. Deep under the hall, there was a sealed vault. Inside was an old device, not Concord made, not Zenith made. No one knew where it came. From it was found long ago in a dead moon, floating alone. The Zenith called it the Ark Seed. Kale opened the vault with trembling hands. Alarms flashed red. The Ark Seed woke like a sleeping beast. It hummed. It pulsed. It drank power from the city as the city died. Outside, Vala was falling. Kale loaded the Ark Seed into a small escape craft. He did not know where he would go. He did not know if the Concord would hunt him. He only knew one thing. If Vala's memory died, then Vala truly died. The escape craft broke through smoke and fire, rising into space. Behind him, his world burned like a candle in the dark. In the distance, Concord ships hovered, calm and perfect, like gods without mercy. Cal's ship drifted into the void. Then the Ark Seed projected a star map across his cockpit. It showed thousands of systems. Most were marked red. Some were marked black. One small point was marked in pale gray, almost like it did not matter. A weak world, a young world, a world the Concord had barely noticed. The label was simple, Earth. Cale stared at it as the last signal from Vela went silent forever. And then, from the Ark seed, a hidden message appeared, written in an ancient code even Cale had never seen. It contained only 6 words. Do not let them silence humans. Cale Rin drifted through the dark for many days. His escape craft was small. It was never meant for long travel. Its walls shook often. Its air tasted old. Its lights blinked like dying stars. Behind him, Vela was gone. Sometimes he tried to sleep, but the memories would not let him. He saw towers breaking. He saw the memory hall falling into fire. He saw faces turning empty under the silence protocol. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard a quiet scream that never ended. The Arkseed sat beside him like a silent passenger. It did not speak. It did not explain. It only hummed, steady and cold. Its glow lit the cockpit with pale blue light. Cale hated it and needed it at the same time. He checked the star map again. Earth, a small world at the edge of the Concord's main lanes. Not important, not rich, not advanced. It was marked as developing. It had no seat in the Concord, no protection, no voice, a perfect target. Cale understood the Concord's pattern. First they watched, then they judged, then they erased. Earth would be next. He tried to imagine humans. He had seen only short Concord reports. Humans were described as loud, emotional, violent, full of conflict, full of old faith, full of strange rituals and stubborn myths. The Concord called them primitive. Cale almost believed it, but then he remembered the last words from the Arkseed. Do not let them silence humans. It was not a warning, it was a command. On the 4th day, a Concord patrol found him. The first sign was a change in the stars. A shadow passed over his ship. His warning lights flared. His scanners screamed. Culler's blood turned cold. A sleek Concord vessel slid into view. Its surface looked smooth like black water. No windows, no markings. Only a single glowing symbol of the Concord. Cal's ship was a dust speck next to it. He powered down everything and drifted. He tried to look dead. He held his breath like it mattered in space. But Concord's sensors were not fooled. A beam of light touched his ship, not a weapon, a scan. The beam moved over the hull like a finger. Then a signal hit his console. Cold symbols. A simple command. Stop. Submit. Be silent. Khalil's hands shook. He knew what submission meant. It meant mind cleaning. It meant memory death. It meant becoming a walking shell like the Sarath on Vela. He looked at the Arkseed. The device pulsed faster, like he was listening, like he was afraid. Khal did not want to die, but fear was not the strongest thing inside him anymore. Pain was. Pain filled his chest like fire. Pain for his people. Pain for his world. Pain for the songs that would never be sung again. He made a choice. He pushed power into the engines and ran. His ship jumped forward like a wounded animal. It was a weak burst, but it was movement. It was defiance. The Concord ship reacted instantly. A net of light formed ahead of him, a gravity trap. He grabbed his craft and slowed it like a hand closing around a throat. Cale slammed his fist against the controls. His ship groaned. Metal screamed. The craft shook so hard his vision blurred. He was trapped. Then the Arkseed changed. It released a sharp pulse. Not loud, not bright, but heavy, like the weight of a planet. The gravity net flickered. For 1 second, Cale felt something strange, a pressure inside his skull, a whisper behind his thoughts. Not words, not language, more like emotion, not fear, not calm. Something harder, refusal. The Arkseed pulsed again. The gravity net shattered like thin glass. Cole's ship lurched free. He almost crashed into his own console. Alarms screamed, but he was moving again. He was alive. The Concord ship fired, a disabling shot. A thin beam struck Coel's engine wing. Sparks burst. The ship spun. Cale fought the controls, sweating, bleeding from his nose. He forced the craft into a blind jump. No clean coordinates. No safe path. Just escape. Stars twisted into lines. Space folded. And then silence. His ship dropped out. Near it, an empty asteroid field. The engine was failing. The hull was cracked. Oxygen leaked in thin streams. Kale coughed and tasted iron, but he was alive. The Concord patrol did not follow. Maybe they believed he would die anyway. Maybe they had larger plans. Kale stared at the Ark. It had saved him, not with technology, with something else, something emotional, something that felt almost human. He opened the Ark, Seed's hidden files again. He searched deeper. He found records buried under layers of code, ancient scans, old signals, strange transmissions. One file was labeled with a symbol he did not recognize. Inside was a short report from centuries ago. It described a species the Concord once met, long before the Concord became an empire. A species that should have died. A species that lost battles again and again, but kept coming back. It said, "They fight harder when they suffer. They do not fear death. They are not logical. They are unstoppable." The last line made Cull's skin go cold, because it ended with a warning. If the humans ever unite, the galaxy will burn. Kale looked at the star map. Again, Earth was still far away, but now he understood the truth. Humans were not weak. They were simply asleep, and the Concord was about to wake them. *KHAL Rin did not have much time. His ship drifted through the asteroid field like a wounded bird. Every system was damaged. The engine coughed heat and smoke. The air filters were weak. The hull had thin cracks that whispered with leaking oxygen. But Kale did not care about comfort anymore. He cared about speed. On the main screen, the Ark Seed displayed the Concord fleet. It was not a patrol, not a small strike group. It was a judgment force. Dozens of warships moved together in perfect formation. Their shapes were smooth and cruel. They did not rush. They did not need to. The Concord believed time itself belonged to them. Kale watched the fleet's path. His chest tightened. Humans were still unknown to him, but he had seen enough of the Concord to understand what would happen. First, they would offer peace. Then they would demand surrender. Then they would erase the human mind and human memory, until Earth became quiet and obedient. Until Earth became a tool or a grave. Kale tried to send warnings. He aimed his weak transmitter toward Earth. He pushed every last unit of power into it. The message was short, simply and disparate. A warning about the Concord. A warning about the silence protocol. A warning about what happened to VAELOR. The signal left his ship like a candle flame in a storm. The Ark Seed tracked it. Then it showed the truth. The message would take too long, even at light speed. Even with compression, it would arrive too late. The Concord fleet was closer than he was. The Concord had already prepared the first stage. Kale stared at the screen. His fingers went numb. He could not save Earth. Not alone. Not with a broken ship. Not with words. The Concord fleet reached the outer edge of the Sol system in silent waves. Their ships spread out like a net. They surrounded Earth from far orbit, beyond the moon, beyond the range of old human eyes. Humans did not see them at first. On Earth, life continued. Cities glowed. Planes crossed the sky. Children slept in warm rooms. People argued about small things. People prayed in different ways. People laughed, cried, worked, and fought. They did not know a shadow was above them. Then the Concord began. They did not fire weapons. They sent a signal. A thin, invisible wave touched the planet. It was the silence protocol. Across Earth, millions of humans stopped moving for a heartbeat. Some dropped their cups. Some froze some blinked and forgot what they were doing. At first it looked like nothing. Then it grew. Hospitals filled with confused patients. Pilots forgot their routes. Teachers forgot their lessons. Soldiers forgot their orders. Families stared at each other like strangers. The Concord studied the results from orbit. Their leaders believed humans would break quickly. Because humans were emotional. Because humans were divided. Because humans still believed in old faith. The Concord did not understand that belief was not a weakness. It was a chain that held humans together. On the second day, the Concord sent peace envoys down in sleek landing craft. Their message was broadcast in every language through satellites. They hacked in minutes. They did not threaten openly. They spoke of safety, progress, order, freedom from pain. But the offer carried a blade. Earth must abandon all religion. All sacred places must be destroyed. All spiritual leaders must surrender. All stories about gods, souls, and meaning must be erased. The Concord called it mercy. Kale watched from the dark. He listened to the human broadcasts. He saw panic spreading. He saw governments shaking. He saw leaders trying to understand an enemy they could not touch. Humans looked small, weak, insignificant, just as the Concord believed. Then the first human cities began to fall, not from bombs, from silence. People lost their memories in waves. Whole neighborhoods became quiet zones, streets filled with wandering bodies. Some humans cried like children, not knowing why. Some became violent, driven by fear they could not name. Earth was drowning without water. Cale felt sick. He remembered Valor. He remembered empty eyes. He remembered the Concord's calm cruelty. He tried again to send a message, but the Concord had already jammed the space around Earth. Their signals cut the stars like blades. Their net of control was perfect. Cale could only watch. The Concord fleet moved closer, and then came the true threat. A giant platform unfolded behind the fleet, like a dark flower opening. It was not a ship. It was not a station. It was a weapon. The Ark Seed identified it with a cold label. Stellar Cleanser Array. Carl's blood turned cold. He knew this weapon. It was the same type used on rebel worlds long ago. It could heat a planet's atmosphere until oceans boiled. It could break weather systems. It could turn a world into a dead stone without leaving ruins. No proof. No history. Just clean extinction. The Concord did not plan to conquer Earth. They planned to erase it. Cale clenched his jaw until it hurt. His eyes burned. He wanted to scream, but space gave him no sound. On Earth, humans finally saw the sky change. Strange lights appeared. Satellites died. Communications failed. Night became full of silent moving stars. People looked up. And for the first time, Earth felt fear as one body. The Concord issued one final statement. Surrender, submit, be silent, or be erased. Earth's leaders tried to respond, but confusion and chaos ruled. Some wanted peace, some wanted war, some wanted to hide, some wanted to pray. Cale watched the human world shake like a candle in wind, and then something happened that the Concord did not expect. In the middle of panic, humans began to gather, not by orders, not by perfect logic, but by emotion. In ruined streets, strangers held hands. In broken churches and mosques and temples, people sat together in silence. In shelters, people shared food with enemies. Soldiers stood beside civilians. Doctors stayed when they could have run. Humans were suffering, but they were not empty. Cale felt the arc seed pulse softly beside him, like a heartbeat that it was reacting. The device sensed something on Earth, a pattern. A force, not technology, not weapons, a stubborn, burning will. Cale whispered to himself, not as prayer, but as fear. Humans were waking. The Concord weapon began charging. Space around it shimmered with heat. A red glow spread across its rings. Earth had hours, maybe less. Cale stared at the planet on the screen. A blue world, a fragile world, a world that did not yet know what it truly was. Then his sensors detected a new signal from Earth, not from satellites, not from military channels. From deep below the surface, a pulse like a drum. Ancient, strong, alive. The Arcseed translated the first part of the signal into a simple warning. They have begun the OATH. Cahal's eyes widened. He did not know what the oath was, but he knew one thing. The Concord was about to learn what happens when suffering turns into power. The Concord did not fear Earth. They feared only disorder, only chaos, only anything that could not be measured. Their empire was built on control, and control was built on certainty. Humans were not certain. Humans were messy, loud, emotional, divided. So the Concord watched the strange pulse from Earth and treated it like a small glitch, a weak signal from a weak world, a dying animal making noise before the end. In the command chamber of the Concord flagship, cold minds studied data streams. They saw human cities collapsing under silence waves. They saw governments failing. They saw riots, fires, confusion. They saw proof of what they believed. Humans were fragile. They were too full of feeling to survive. The Concord fleet tightened its orbit. Their ships formed a perfect ring around the planet. Their stellar cleanser array glowed brighter. The weapon's charge built like a rising sun made of blood-red light. Earth was surrounded. Earth was judged, and still the Concord leaders laughed in their own quiet way, not with sound, but with certainty, because they believed the silence. Protocol was working. It was true that the silence protocol harmed humans. It shattered memory. It broke focus. It made people forget names, routes, plans, and even faces. But it did not erase one thing. It did not erase the human heart. On Earth, the silence waves came again. Whole blocks went blank. Cars crashed. Planes fell. People wandered in shock. Some screamed without knowing why. Some stared at walls for hours, but others did something strange. They wrote things down. They carved symbols into wood and stone. They painted signs on walls. They tied ribbons around their wrists. They marked their skin. They repeated the same words again and again, not as religion, not as politics, but as anchors. They refused to forget. The Concord did not understand this behavior. To them it was pointless. When the mind breaks, surrender is natural. When survival odds drop, obedience is logical. Humans did not behave logically. Pain did not make humans quiet. Pain made humans loud. Every new wave of silence created new human patterns. The more memory was stolen, the more humans built memory back. They gathered in circles. They held hands. They shared stories like oxygen. A mother who forgot her child still protected that child with her body. A soldier who forgot his orders still stood in front of civilians when danger came. A priest who forgot every prayer still knelt, because his knees remembered what his mind could not. The Concord saw this and called it weakness. Kale Rin watched from far space, his ship hidden in shadow. He could barely breathe from stress and leaking air, but he